Doctor Who has boasted some of the best actors of any generation across its many years. However, that doesn't mean that plenty of the hallowed names that graced our screens don't have a few clunkers they'd rather we forgot about when watching their performances within the Whoniverse, especially when it comes to the big screen. With that in mind, I'm Will for WhoCulture, and here are 10 awful films Doctor Who actors want you to forget. 10. G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. To date, Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, has appeared in many formidable fantasy franchises like Heroes, Thor, and The Leftovers, but not all of his coveted cult contributions have been resounding successes. In 2009, he starred in G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, as one of its leading villains, Destro, but the film was internationally panned by critics and fans alike. One reviewer even went as far as to say that it butchered its mythos, while the film as a whole has been described as an overriding, joyless stinker. Ouch. For such a talented actor, this is one project he'd rather you forgot. 9. St. Trinians II, The Legend of Fritton's Gold. David Tennant's lauded portrayal as the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who established him as a formidable on-screen force to be reckoned with. However, this reputation was stunted slightly when he appeared as Sir Piers Pomfrey in this 2009 adventure comedy, in which the girls of St. Trinians go on the hunt for buried treasure and... oh, well, that's about it. To be fair, you could argue that a film of this variety isn't supposed to be taken seriously, but that doesn't mean it's enjoyable either. It's 106 minutes of your life that you are never getting back. If only we had a TARDIS to undo this travesty. 8. Nativity III, Dude, Where's My Donkey? The only saving grace in this movie is that it stars Catherine Tate, but even the popular Donna Noble actress isn't enough to make the process of sitting through this festive farce worth your while. The first one was good, the second one was okay, and the third one was just a desperate attempt to ruin everybody's Christmas before it had even begun, since it was released in cinemas at Halloween for seemingly no apparent reason. Even Catherine herself appeared on the Graham Norton show to promote it, and basically took the piss out of it for the entire interview. 7. Dungeons and Dragons. Tom Baker is widely cited as the definitive Doctor, and after a record-breaking 7-year tenure on board the TARDIS, it's no exaggeration to say that his iconic incarnation will go down in history as one of TV's most popular heroes. The Fourth Doctor actor has the ability to steal any seat with his ever-authoritative presence, and most Doctor Who fans would have happily watched him read out the phone book. But then Dungeons and Dragons came along, and it changed everything you thought you knew. In Tom's defense, it's not his fault that the film sucks beyond recognition, and his cameo appearance as Halvarth the Elf is one of the only saving graces in what is otherwise a poorly envisioned pile of poop. Based on the frankly awesome role-playing game of the same name, the 2000 fantasy film was slammed for being badly written, badly acted, and, well, badly everything, really. And then you got the really angry critics who condemned it for being a racist throwback to black stereotypes. Yeah, this one is not good. 6. Gone in 60 Seconds. If only this movie really had been gone in 60 seconds, we'd all be a lot happier. Here we find Christopher Eccleston again in this ill-fated action film which really should have been a lot better given the high caliber of its cast, producers, and the fact that its running time consists of like 87.5% dramatic car chases. However, its plot was slammed for being nonsensical and boring, but thankfully Eccleston's supporting role as the notorious British crime boss Raymond the Carpenter is widely cited as one of its redeeming factors. Not even the likes of Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie were enough to catapult this film into the fast lane, but it was the first major movie to employ a female trailer voiceover, so, you know, that's pretty cool. 5. Spirit Trap. There's a thin line between life and death, according to the tantalizing tagline of this harrowing horror. There's also a thin line between what even constitutes a movie, apparently, because Spirit Trap was a resounding flop when it received its limited cinematic release back in 2005. Beloved Doctor Who companion Billie Piper stars in her debut movie role as Student Jenny, whose life spirals out of control when she moves into a seemingly unoccupied mansion with her fearless friends. When a mysterious spirit clock starts to tick once more, it sets in motion a series of inexplicable events as the boundaries between the real world and the afterlife begin to break down. Oh, and Billie's character is also a psychic too, just to add to the cliché narrative conventions that everyone saw coming. It is just about bearable for the first 30 minutes, but the rest of it is as dull as dishwater. Not the best first outing for poor old Billie. 4. Not another happy ending. Fans were left disheartened when it was confirmed that Karen Gillan would be leaving Doctor Who back in 2012, but their spirits were lifted with the subsequent announcement that she was set to helm her first feature-length film, not another happy ending. But unfortunately, her debut cinematic escapade was ultimately as disappointing as its apt title would suggest. The 2013 rom-com starred the acclaimed Amy Pond actress as Jane Lockhart, an eccentric author who loses the ability to write when she becomes too happy. So her empathetic publisher takes it upon himself to unblock her before her career goes down the pan. Guess what? They end up falling in love, which nobody saw coming, and life is puppies and bunnies and rainbows. Now, while this movie is a great advocate for independent filmmaking, the general consensus was that it felt like it had been written and made in the space of, like, a day. Probably because it basically was, but the point still stands. 3. Alien 3. Doctor Who isn't the only formidable sci-fi universe that Paul McGann has left his prestigious mark on. Back in 1992, the future 8th Doctor star appeared as Golic, a mass murderer and outcast, in the ill-fated third installment of one of Hollywood's most iconic cult franchises. In Alien 3's defense, it was doomed from the start. Its famously turbulent production was repeatedly postponed when its various writers and directors kept dropping out, until they were eventually forced to start filming without a finished script. Even Sigourney Weaver, who had fronted the first 2 critically acclaimed installments, wasn't 100% convinced that it was a story worth telling. The moral of the story is, always listen to Ellen Ripley. 2. The Calcium Kid. It's never easy for a young actor to be taken seriously, especially when said actor first rose to fame as a teenage pop princess who sang songs about throwing parties for the world and their friends. She would go on to be great in Doctor Who, but here we see another case of that growing talent of Billie Piper failing to translate effectively to the big screen. Billie played Orlando's girlfriend Angel in the 2004 mockumentary The Calcium Kid, but their on-screen chemistry just wasn't sizzling enough to ensure any sort of success at the box office. The film currently holds a rare overall rating of 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and its performances have been ridiculed for being uncharacteristically bad. Luckily for Billie, a certain Time Lord was just around the corner. 1. Shark Attack 3: Megalodon. John Barrowman has become a globally recognized hero for a new generation for his praised portrayal of Captain Jack Harkness in Doctor Who, and its subsequent spin-off Torchwood. Way back when, though, he was making films like this. Shark Attack 3: Megalodon was released into the public domain as a straight-to-video sequel back in 2002, and has become somewhat of an internet sensation for one particularly memorable scene in which John's character, Ben Carpenter, casually asks his co-star Jenny McShane if he can take her home and, make out down under, so to speak. The film itself pretty much does what it says on the tin, too. The most menacing and size-changing shark ever to rule the waters is mercilessly feeding on anything that crosses its path, and it's up to John and Jenny to hunt it down before there's no one left to stop its reign of terror. That is, of course, as soon as John stops doing some feeding of his own. Ahem. And there you have it, folks, 10 awful films Doctor Who actors want you to forget. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDowOU. I'm Will for WhoCulture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.